Welcome to Community Property, you amateur space dockers. Thunderstroke and I busted our balls for minutes and landed a special guest for today's show. Today we are joined by the one and only, the D-Lo, Donnie Too Hottie, the ODB, Don Brown. Thunderstroke and I have accomplished what no other straight guys have ever done. We managed to get Don out of his shell and actually give his opinion on something. So sit back and grab your tea bags and listen as we debate the top heavy metal drummers. I'm Hatch Coltrane and this is Community Property. Bitches.
Welcome to Community Property, Episode 7. Today we're going to discuss drummers. We've got a special guest today, legendary Iowa City drummer, Don Brown.
The man's a menace.
Welcome to the show, Don.
Hello, guys.
Say hi to the people.
Hello, people.
You can't hear me right now because my mouth is occupied.
Don was one of my first drum teachers. We lived at the Metal House, probably not at the same time, but we hung out with that same group. One of the biggest rock stars that I know. That's one of the things that has a lot to do with being an influence on people. You can watch different drummers and just be like, I couldn't do that. That dude is from another planet. But when you know somebody and you see them kicking ass and doing something, like, I know that guy and he's just a regular dude. Yeah, maybe I could do that.
Sure.
That's probably one of my first questions for you is, what bands have you played with and what drummers have influenced you that you've met?
Well, as far as bands that I played in, Kita, Burnout, Moonboot, Death Stomp.
With Todd Two Shirts?
With Todd Two Shirts. House Coach, Petty Mall, Breech Loader, Slow Sun, take that back with Two Shirts.
Kill the Gods?
Snow Demon, Damn the Gods, Intelligent Decision.
With one of our previous guests, Dubinator.
Yes, the Dubinator for sure. That's it. I might be missing one.
When you ask the question, Don, what bands have you played with? Just say all of them.
Yeah, yeah.
You know,
Let me give you a list of bands I haven't played with.
Right.
That's
Now,
all.
as far as people, like, I'm glad you brought that up, as far as, like, local people, Nate Gertman from Skrid blew my mind. I had never heard anybody play like that cat. I could learn to play something that Nate Gertman wrote, but I would never write something like Nate Gertman because he approached it different. He just had that weird quirk about him.
That's one of the things that the difference between being in a cover band and writing your own music. You can mimic it once they've already done it, but can you write that?
You can talk about musicians and players. I know people who are players, they can play anything under the sun. You know, like, they can learn any song you give them, they can mimic anything. But musicians make music. Musicians take risks and do things that aren't always successful, aren't always understood initially.
Right.
And then there's the difference. You know what I mean? You get those guys. Then in the perfect world, you have a good mix of both of those.
I see some guys where I'm like, oh my God, I could do that. So it influences you. It makes you want to, or you see something that's amazing, like, I want to do that. But then you see some drummers where I'm like, I quit. I couldn't do that.
Well, even though you talk about,
I don't have that in
I
me.
still have guys from high school that influenced me, that I grew up just as seeing them, because like you said, you see somebody do something, you go, wow, I can do that. Like Eric Good, this guy I went to high school with. Like, you see Tommy Lee always has his hi-hat cymbal always open and closing with his foot. Eric was one of the first guys I knew that did that, and I just thought it was the coolest thing I'd ever seen. So if you notice when I play, I do that constantly, and that strictly comes from watching Eric play when I was 13, 14 years old. You know, or Dustin Sample, this other cat, that he was always, like, technically not the greatest drummer on the planet, but he had groove. Like, he understood he could fill a pocket and sit, like, he would play the quads in marching band, and was always playing something different. It sounded like Dustin Sample, you know what I mean? It was just, that's the way he played. It was unique.
So you used to play in marching band? That's where you got your start?
Oh, I started way before that, even in grade school in concert band. I thought it was the coolest thing ever.
What was the first song you learned?
That I don't know.
You don't remember that?
Little Drummer Boy, Christmas Time.
Yeah, because I mean, honestly.
So how important do you think that is to actually learn the rudiments to make you a more developed drummer? Because I meet a lot of people that are like, I play drums, and I'm like, well, play me a paradiddle. And they're like, well, I play by ear. And I'm like, you don't have to know paradiddle, but there's a checklist of things, and you have to hit probably 75% of them to tell me you're a drummer, because I could buy a drum kit. Does that make me a drummer if I've never picked up a set of sticks? So at what point am I a drummer? That's usually the first and last question that I get. It's like, well, how, are you a drummer? Are you a percussionist? Or, I mean, what was it that you said, the difference between...
Musician versus player, but now you're talking about learning from the book and not from the book. And I sometimes wish that I didn't learn from the book, because my brain sometimes tells me that this is how you play this. And then you hear somebody like Nate Gertman do it. it flips your brains. You're like, wait a minute, that's not the way you're supposed to do that, but that's freaking awesome.
Yeah.
And it hurts your head. So it can be, I would say you want to come from a base of knowledge, but there are cats that have that natural knack and that don't need it. But they're few and far between, I'll say that. You definitely want the foundations.
What are you better than 99% of the planet? I would say being a drummer, but that doesn't necessarily make you good. Can 1 out of 100 people play drums? If you can just play a beat, you're probably already in that top 1 percentile. So of the drummers, how hard is it to be in the top 1% of people can actually play it? How many people are out there that blow your mind? Because we've got such a long list of amazing drummers, but these are the elite of the elite.
There it becomes knowing to play for what music you're playing for. Well, like you said, somebody like Phil Rudd from AC/DC, who's technically not the most proficient drummer on the planet, but he's perfect for what they do. He is the guy. There's no one else that does it like he does. If you get told that to be a player, musician player, you can either have really good chops or have good taste. What do you choose?
Taste.
That's the point I'm getting at.
Well,
you get
I was going to say taste.
That's
I think you have to have a certain knack for timekeeping. I'm not saying you have to be an A+ timekeeper. You don't have to be Kronos, the Greek god of time, but you have to at least be a C- student. You might not know what a paradiddle is, but if I told you this is how you play one, could you be able to play it back to me? How about that?
The paradiddle is the greatest drum rudiment ever.
Yes.
Bar none.
And if you don't know
But that being said, you should know what a paradiddle is. I don't. But I will. It's just
thank you for shitting on my point for 20 minutes and then confirming.
What are the questions you got for Mr. Brown? Otherwise, we should get to the list, man.
beverage.
Do you want, which one do you want?
Beer that man.
The ribbon.
I hear it.
There's to it.
There you go.
Do you guys mind if I do the honors to kick off the list? I'm coming out of the corner swinging, and it's only going up from here. Vinnie Paul from Pantera. Woo! From Dallas, Texas, and you had me watch Slow Southern Steel, a lot of that Southern influence. He's from Pantera. Hell yeah, Damage Plan. He's one of the first drummers that they weren't mainstream quite yet, that I just watched. Was like, these guys are freaking amazing. He fit right into the pocket of what we're talking about. His brother, Dimebag, fit that style. Would you like Vinnie Paul as much if he played for a band like Disturbed? Maybe he wouldn't be on my list anymore.
There's a great interview, which I'm sure most of you guys have seen the Pantera home videos. They have older video. There's a great interview with Rex Brown. When Pantera went dun 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 dun, everybody hit it tight. It was perfect. They were a freaking machine. Those three dudes.
One of my favorite drummers, one of my biggest influences. Does he, though, use triggers? And are using triggers are okay?
I love that. It's a great point. Triggers are a great tool, but you can't rely on them. Somebody doesn't rely on those.
Can you describe what it is?
Okay, what a trigger is. A trigger is a device you put on a drum that as you hit it, picks up that vibration, sends a signal to a drum machine, and then creates a sound.
Like an electronic drum kit.
Wait,
sort of.
so it's like a microphone?
No, it is not a microphone. It literally picks up, it's like a pad, basically, that fills it. That was one of my big gripes about a lot of like super fast death metal bands. A lot of the guys I would see would cheat, and they would use triggers, so you barely have to tap something and it makes a sound. So it sounds like you're going, just smacking the shit, but in all reality, you're barely tapping this thing.
So I can get cheap double bass?
Kind of, no, but it's different than that. You can do that, but that's not what most guys do.
Right.
What I'm getting at is that to play in a rock band, when you're playing with a full big band, you got to hit your stuff hard if you're doing it right.
That sounds like my honeymoon.
With triggers, you barely have to tap it. So that's my point.
Because the faster you go, the lighter you're hitting.
Yeah, because you can't get as much into it. So I used to say that about Raymond Herrera from Fear Factor. I used to give Debinator a lot of crap and say, well, dude, he's triggering his crap. Of course he can play that fast. He's barely touching it. You know what I mean? He's not having to compete like I do with full stack. But then I went and saw Raymond Herrera live, and Raymond Herrera is a beast, and he did it. I knew a cat in Tumwa that did a really good thing. He would mic his drums and trigger it.
Time out, pause. Why don't you Google map a Tumwa?
Yeah.
Video game capital of the world, isn't it?
Yes, it is. From this guy named Scotty.
It is.
Scotty was a beast because he would trigger his drum and mic it. Vinnie Paul does a lot of that too, because Vinnie Paul plays, you gotta understand, his bass drums in Pantera were 24 by 24. Most standard kick drums are 16 by 22. And that's why he plays with wood beaters as well. So if you listen to Pantera albums, his bass drums sound like they've got all the tack, there's not a lot of ass to them.
He almost made my list from the cowbell tracks. We did a cowbell episode, and Drag the Waters is fat. They originally were glam rock, were they not?
Yes, they were.
What was their? Was it called Pantera, or was it a different
It's called
name?
Pantera, yeah.
Power metal. I
So
believe,
what made
is one
them
of the
switch?
albums.
All I remember is the album cover had like a big pink demon or
Yeah,
something.
the
pretty
singer was Terry
ambiguous.
Glaze.
Yes,
He went on
you're
singing
correct.
House of Lords, I believe.
I think you're right, yeah.
Almost every solo section of a Pantera song is a Van Halen song.
Oh, I
They never lost that 3-piece like just rock band jamming and that kind of and that southern swing thing. Like
Dimebag Darrell, he didn't hide behind anything. He made it very, very open that he was a big Eddie Van Halen.
I've seen shirts with Pantera with Confederate flag. Would you wear a Pantera shirt with a Confederate flag on it? Because knowing what Confederate flag has now become,
Probably not anymore.
Not anymore.
Is that
20
something-
years ago when I got the shirt, yeah.
I wouldn't have hesitated.
You know,
yeah.
it just different meaning, different
Right,
vibe
and
now
it's
than it's
Southern
back
pride. Now it's become something else, and I think that's probably almost inappropriate, which sucks because it's.
Well, that's why I think if you get a chance, when you bring up the Slow Southern Steel, anybody that's listening to this, you can go on YouTube and watch Slow Southern Steel. There's a great topic where they talk about the Confederate flag. Once again, I think I'm on the other side of that discussion probably, and I'm from the North, and I just look at things differently. But they do have a neat spin on why they want that emblem, and I mean, I get it. I have plenty of friends from that sport that sport it for the right reasons, that I think are rock solid human beings that I would trust, my life with.
And they mesh right into that Southern sound we were discussing. What song was that? This Love?
No, This Love.
Where it's just slow, sludgy.
Vinnie Paul was one of the first guys for me that showed me that slow. First time I heard the breakdown of This Love, that I thought that was the heaviest thing I had
Right.
ever heard in my entire
doesn't
life,
have
and
to
that's
be.
a Southern metal.
A million beats per minute.
What else you got for Big Vin?
His double kick drumming was second to none. He really was one of those guys
Right.
that kind of revitalized double kick drums and was doing things that were like, first time I heard Becoming. That is a freaking gnarly fucking drum. I mean, that thing is fucking tough. Still doing double kick drums, but also mimicking that between his toms.
Go on to Big Vin TV, and he does all sorts of shit on there. Like,
Do they drink?
I bet.
not live, at least I don't think. He was testing out a new set of D drums, and I was noticing he was very, very accurate on the sticks. You know what I'm saying? Like every hit that he made was with 100% accuracy. Vinny could probably start like a blues band or a jazz band seamlessly. There's other drummers who have done so, like Gar Samuelson by trade was a jazz drummer.
Yeah, sure.
That was my takeaway from it. Vinnie Paul was a good pick, though. I was debating putting Vinnie Paul on my list.
Oh, what's this? Is that a tear, Pantera? Oh, is Daddy's little girl upset? I'm gonna kick your ass in the next Tuesday. Now get out of here.
I actually recruited a former community property enlistee. I actually had to hit up Jefferson Mandrake.
You don't know shit about funk.
I invited him to be a part of this show. He said he can only do it if he brought his parents and his grandmother with, and I said, well, do they drink Pabst?
You treat your stepmother with respect, Pantera.
Sing of that.
Damn it, Pantera, this beer is warm. Get me another one. Yeah.
Right now, can I do my number 3? I owe this one to Jefferson Mandrake. This made my short list, but he convinced me to put this one over the top to make my number 3. It's time to up the irons, boys. It's Nico McBrain from Iron Maiden. That's what's up. That's right. 7,000 years ago, when I was in probably 7th grade, I got the Peace of Mind album on tape from Columbia House. That's
Nice.
right. Shout out to Columbia House.
just went
That's what's up.
bankrupt.
That took them that long.
I did it to him finally.
I got the Peace of Mind tape from Columbia House, and I hit play. The track 1 on side 1 was the song "Where Eagles Dare." I'd never heard drumming like that prior to that. Also, keep in mind, this is a long ass time ago. If you were to tell me that Nico McBrain was I'm probably not going to say this right, a classically trained marching drummer, I would say, fuck yeah, Where Eagles Dare right there. That's the only specimen you need. Because it's fucking unorthodox as shit, just that song alone. I'm looking at a posting on thetop10s.com. The best information, the richest information you can find is in the user comments. Always, no matter what. This is what this cat says about Nico. The opening track of Where Eagles Dare famously displays McBrain's ability to use the single drum pedal very quickly, just like double pedal. McBrain often employs the back end of his left-hand drumstick to get more aggressive sound on the snare drum. He's able to play a variety of styles. The 7/8 riff, which follows the second chorus of Alexander the Great, the 7/4 riff of the song Brighter Than a Thousand Suns, and the 14/8 riff that follows the second chorus on the song The Longest Day are other examples of his versatility.
More standard rock music is 4/4.
I'm just stunned that you got an anonymous poster on the internet to come out of their shell. That doesn't
But no, I'm so glad you brought up the single pedal, because that's the other thing about Nico McBrain that sets him apart, is that he did do everything with one foot. That guy is a freaking monster. He played with Pat Travers before he was ever in Maiden. I'm drawing a complete blank on Maiden's first drummer, but that guy also, though, deserved a lot of credit, because he's another guy like Wrathchild, Run to the Hills.
Clive Burr.
Clive Burr, yeah. That's who I'm thinking of. Clive Burr.
Yeah. There was actually a couple guys in between Clive Burr and Ron Matthews. There's a guy by the name of Thunderstick. Pretty sure that's not
awesome.
His. I'm going to go out on a limb and say that's not his Christian name.
He stole my name. He's actually the oldest guy on our list. He's like 63 right now. Yeah, he's from Hackney, London, but he started off playing like Beatles, the Stones, The Who.
Pretty sure he's licensed to play
Bruce
playing just like Bruce
flies
is.
them, yeah.
Started playing on pots and pans, and his parents got him into bands. I think he started playing when he was like 14. Tommy Lee called him the Octopus. Is he known as the Octopus, or is that just the style that people say when you see someone tearing it up?
Octopus. Anytime you see a guy, Keith Moon's another guy who's an octopus, who's just his arms are flailing. You just see this blur of chaos.
It's the showmanship a little bit, yeah sure.
Well, that's the thing about Nico's. He played a single bass drum, but you wouldn't notice about all the toms he had. It was hard. Like when I was in Burnout, we used to play the Trooper. That's really hard to play when you only got two toms. Because I play a 4-piece drum kit, and I'm trying to cover. This dude's like all over the place. I'm like, I got two sounds to work with, man. I've got so much to do here.
He has a 700-piece drum kit.
Vinny, it's a cool mascot. I mean, this is probably more generically towards Maiden. Every list I've ever heard, though, of like the big four, who else could be if we had a number 5? I've never heard Maiden put on that list. They're just like a band.
No, real quick. The one thing I want to say, too, about Maiden, and this is about Judas Priest, too, because don't forget about Scott Travis. I didn't pick Scott Travis as an honorable mention. These guys have always been metal. Before metal was cool, they were metal. While metal was cool, they were metal. When metal was not cool, they were metal. They have never shied away from the fact that we are a metal band. And that's what we talk about, trying to define metal.
Yeah, and they don't necessarily follow, they don't cower to trends.
There you go.
Nico McBrain, he converted to Christianity in 1999, and they have a song called Number of the Beast. So I think he's commented on it.
El Numero de Diablo.
Yes.
He converted to Christianity on purpose? Wow.
That's a shame.
No, and there may be somebody else on our list too that I believe might be a Christian that may have.
Is he a crispy Christian?
Maybe.
That my mom doesn't approve of.
Yeah, there very well could be.
And my mom's a Satanist.
Donnie, you're number 3.
Over to you for number 3.
So I threw out Mike Borden from Faith No More. He's another one of the guys that changed the way things were done at the time. For me, he really was a unique dude. And also because he was left-handed. So,
I thought so. I see his ride cymbal.
So that's the thing about his playing. So what he would do is his ride cymbal, like for me, my ride cymbal is on my right side. My right hand uses it. He would set his up on the left side right above his hi-hat. So physically, there were things that he would do that physically were very hard for me. So they were unlike, and when he would write, that's why his tom grooves. That's the other thing I want to get to. His tom grooves are second to none.
Midlife crisis, just that
anytime
intro.
I ever play a drum groove, I'm probably ripping off Mike Borden or maybe Igor Cavalera, or
Right.
Nate Gertman. But that's why I mentioned Nate Gertman at the beginning, because Borden, like me, is Nate Gertman. Nate had a little deal with his leg, so he had to play differently to accommodate his body, the way his body was built. Mike Borden, same thing. He's left-handed, playing on a right-handed drum kit. He had to adjust his playing style to this kit, which made him unique. It made him approach it. What is the saying that necessity is the mother of all invention?
Right.
This guy had to develop a way to do his thing, and it made him unique and different. But on a side note, one thing I want to mention too that I think he gets negative points for, I don't know if everybody knows this or not. Do not buy the remastered versions of Blizzard of Oz or Diary of a Madman.
He redid them.
Him and Trujillo both. But my understanding of the story is the drummer and bass player for those albums were a guy named Wes Kerlake, who played drums in Uriah Heep, and Bob Daisley and Phil Susan were the bass players from Uriah Heep. And if you looked in those records, they didn't have their names on there. I, for years, thought Tommy Aldridge was the drummer on those albums because he was the guy prominently featured on Tribute, and he was just the guy associated. I was shocked to find out that this is Will Kerslake and Phil Susan and Bob Daisley. So they sue Ozzy because their names aren't listed. They're not being paid for what they did. What they did to get back at them was then they re-recorded those. So they had Robert Trujillo of Metallica, Suicidal fame, Infectious Grooves, come in and redo the bass parts, and had Mike Borden come in and redo the drum parts. And that bothered me because growing up, I listened to Blizzard of Oz. It's one of those albums for me that's just special that I spent hours listening to, learning how to play drums.
Yeah.
You're now trying to change. So with Mike being one of the best dudes on the planet, I just felt that needs to be mentioned as well. And it kind of ties into what Sharon did to Iron Maiden. Mm-hmm. The Trooper, he came out with the flag, the guy from Black Label Society tax, and they were turning the volume off. Iron Maiden is fucking, they're Iron Maiden.
Yeah.
Show some fucking respect.
And Puffy Borden. When you start to get a super group, what band do you choose? But then how much do you have? Too many Chiefs, not enough Indians? With Ozzy Osbourne, they had Robert Trujillo, they had Zakk Wylde, they had Mike Borden. I don't remember them putting out a good song.
That lineup did not do any good.
Yeah, which is like, how could you not?
Well, let's be honest, Ozzy hasn't been relative since...
Yeah, it all starts with Ozzy.
So how does that happen? That happens with a lot of supergroups. I mean, even this amazing drummer that we're talking
I'll
about.
argue this, Audio Slave.
It's a question of what's better, is the whole better than the sum of the parts,
Okay.
You could even take it the opposite way. One of my favorite examples of exactly what you're talking about, Thunderstroke, is the Beatles. Way better as a band than they were as a solo, a collective of solo units. It's not even close, actually. Right. Can you quantify it somehow? No. I mean, you can't put your finger on it. It's just one of those things,
I'm glad you bring that up because Ringo Starr is another guy who was left-handed.
Was he really?
Oh yeah. So I argue that a lot. People give Ringo a lot of shit.
How come they wouldn't let him play left-handed? Do you know?
Most people will tell you, most drum teachers will teach you to play right-handed. It's probably the better thing to do. Mm-hmm. Or they will teach you to play what they call open-handed, which is like Mike Borden does, where you play, like I would play my right hand on my hi-hat and crossover.
Yeah, crossover. We'll talk about that too.
Where Mike Borden plays his left hand on his hi-hat, so it's open, which makes, so why they call open is because then his right hand can then hit whatever he wants. He can do toms, he can do...
And Faith No More, they're touring right now.
They are.
They sold out in like 8 minutes. I mean, we were just trying to get tickets from so bad.
Yeah, it's a pain in the ass.
And I haven't seen them. I did see them with Guns N' Roses and Metallica.
That's gay.
I wasn't a fan at the time, and I wish I could go back in time and see them as a fan.
See, I got to see them at Sandstone's Amphitheater. Which
Where?
is not Sandstone Amphitheater. In
Never heard of it.
St. Louis, Kansas City, something like that.
Okay.
They're from San Francisco.
Who, Faith No More?
Yeah, Bay Area band. I mean, I think we have a lot of... We might be able to go back through our list and find out where a lot of our drummers are.
Jim Martin went to school with Les Claypool, Kurt Hammett.
Did he really?
Yeah, so he's all from that area. That's why if you notice, Jim Martin was wearing the Cliff Burton t-shirt in the, is it the Epic video? If you look, I'm pretty sure Jim Martin's wearing like a tribute to Cliff Burton t-shirt.
That could be. I know that in a lot of Metallica appearances, like videos, and also when they were on MTV shit, A lot of those guys are We're Afraid No More t-shirts.
And they were considered
hats.
an alternative, though, not metal. Weren't they kind of in on that beginning end?
Well, I would say that like Angel Dust was a more metal album than anything they probably ever have done. That was the.
You'd have to say Angel Dust or King for a Day, one of those two. I mean,
I like King for Days, still probably my favorite, but it's to me because it delves into some other areas where it gets into like Latin music and some different things where it definitely veers off the path a little bit.
For me, Angel Dust is one of my favorite records of all
Agreed.
time. I put the tape into the cassette player. That's right. I don't have to skip a song.
When I heard Angel Dust, that changed the way I listened to music. Like I realized all of a
Absolutely.
sudden there was like, whoa, there's more
Right.
to this going on. There's something different here.
I
This
hear
is
you.
not.
I hear you.
This is not just boom chink boom chink boom chink boom chink. These guys are doing.
All right, Jim Martin, you're the fucking man. Back over to you, Thunderstroke.
Death Cancel from High on Fire.
Yeah.
Also from Oakland, the Bay Area. So
Oaktown,
there may be a theme here.
LA face with the Oakland booty.
The first time I saw those guys was a show at Gabe's.
There. I'm sorry.
Google Gabe's. Death Cancel's one of those drummers that I know a lot of guitar players will watch him, and you just have some of them drummers where it's just the dude's so amazing that you can't take your eyes off him. Just like, how the heck is he doing that? They're one of the bands that you just go way out of your way to see. They're heavy, they're thick, and I just love watching that guy. The songs like Devolution. He just gets after it. He's got, double bass. Well, when we did see him at Gabe's, do you remember Caleb, the guy from
I do.
Brandon's old roommate?
I do.
He bought so many of their shirts. I mean, what does he weigh? About $1 nothing?
With the rings.
And he bought like 10 of their shirts. Like, he was just so blown away, and he still looks skinny. He was wearing all 10 shirts. I mean, they're just so amazing. And then every chance I've ever had to try to see those guys, they were so awesome. Rumors of War, Fertile Green. These guys are just freaking amazing. And the drummer, they're a three-piece. The drummer is just an essential part of that band. We talked about picking people that fit the band, or some people just make it. When you strip it down that much, everybody's got to be doing their job, and this dude just kills it.
They're only a three-piece band.
Yes.
John Hopkins, the guitar player in Burnout, is doing monitor mixes for them right now on the road.
Oh, no shit.
Chad Hargrave, who was the bass player in Sludge Plow from the Iowa City area, is their sound guy. And Jordan Wagner, who used to play in Petty Mall with me, Moon Boot, Death Stomp, he is the guitar tech for Matt Pike as well. They're on the road right now with Paul Berry.
I did see a video one time of the best t-shirts Matt Pike has ever worn. 10 through 3 was bare-chested. And then, like, number 2, he was wearing a wife beater, and then number 1 was back to no shirt. He was also on the documentary Such Hawk, Such Hound.
I'm pretty sure we played with them like when they first were starting, like when they were on Man's Ruin. Like their first album for me is probably my favorite because it's a little slower. It's kind of got that more sleek vibe to it. Versus now they've become more of like a
But the
Celtic
drumming
cross metal band.
on every song is essentially what Hatch was talking about. Just every song is its own orchestra. You
like
could listen to just the drums.
Well, 100,000 Years off the first album. Baghdad off the first album are freaking so good.
Right, and you could tune out the guitars. Not that they're not amazing. It's just you could listen to just the drumming. He's that good. Death Cancel, he's 42. Everybody's about our age. How biased are we being? All of our drummers are 40s.
We almost never talk about new bands.
Right.
If you came out within the last 3 to 15 years, you're not going to get a lot of DAP from us. You're just not.
Columbia House
that's the way it is.
isn't pushing a whole lot of your tapes.
That's right, and I wish I could stay younger than I am, but what can I say?
I'll edit.
Talk to my wife about that one. mean, the band has a shitload of videos out there. There's blogs all over the place. They have their own website, all of that shit.
Des Kenzel is, he's one of those guys that's off the beaten path. He doesn't play traditional style metal necessarily either. Because he didn't always play double kick drums initially. It sounded like he did, but initially he had a single pedal, and then he's evolved into this. Where he's at now. He's an absolute ripper. I mean, as far as modern guys right now, he's one of those dudes.
All right, I'll go with my number 2, and this is going to be a little bit of curveball to Thunderstroke right here. My number 2 is Andy Galeon. He's the drummer from Death Angel. This is going to be kind of a weird pick for me because I based this pick essentially off of one track, one album. It's the song Discontinued from the Act 3 album. I talked about this before. If a drummer can create a drum line that is its own standalone song, you strip away the bass, strip away the lyrics, guitars, keyboards, studio effects, all of that shit. This one song made a believer out of me and Andy Galeon. Hopefully Thunderstroke will put some of this song in there for me. Andy Galeon from Death Angel. He's the shit. He's not a drummer. He's a musician. He's a composer. He writes Expo. He just happens to use a drum kit to do it.
Well, I love Death Angel. He's a product to the park. I remember first time I heard on board. Mm-hmm. I mean, yeah, he's a ripper for sure.
Where's Death Angel from?
San Francisco.
The Bay Area.
Yeah, you're right.
Once again,
you are correct.
I also agree with me. Once again, there's going to be a common theme.
Yeah.
He's the only drummer on our list that doesn't have his own Wikipedia page. Even Des Kenzel has his own Wikipedia page. It's very small, but Andy Galeon, I actually had to...
I think there's 2 drummers recording right now who don't have Wikipedia.
I'm not on my list.
I'll see if I can
Spoiler
do something
alert.
about that. Give
I
me
didn't pick
24
myself
hours.
as my number one. But High on Fire, Slayer, Metallica, they're all from the Bay Area. He's not the drummer right now, correct? But Will Carroll is now the drummer for Death Angel. They have a new album coming out 2016.
But they were all family, right? It was like cousins or something like that.
Maybe not everybody in the band,
but I know a good portion were like cousins or something.
Like Rob Kevistani and Mark Osegueda and Ted Aguilar, you know.
Yes.
Yeah.
The Death Angel's named after a book title. I guess I should probably have looked up the author.
You want me to look it up right now?
Yeah.
Death's Angels, a novel by William King.
I love Death Angel. Like I said, they're to me like one of those quintessential thrash bands. Like we talked about Priest and Maiden being metal, they're thrash metal to me. They're like always been a thrash metal band.
Past members Dennis Papa, Gus Papa, Andy Galeon, he's no longer with them. We already talked about that. Chris Contos and Sammy Diastato.
Chris Contos, the original drummer on the first Machine Head album.
Really? That guy almost made my list. Dave McClain.
Chris Contos played on the first album.
Death Angel's discography, The Ultraviolence, 1987, followed by Frolic Through the Park, Act 3, The Art of Dying, Killing Season, Relentless Retribution. Their most recent cut is The Dream Calls for Blood, 2013.
The Art of Dying, that one was a ripper. That came out after they'd kind of disappeared for a while, right?
Oh yeah, there's 14 years here between.
It seems like our number 3 picks were guys single pedal. This guy, he used a lot of double bass, lots fast.
That might be coincidental more than anything else.
Is he on there for his looks?
No comment. Andy Galeon is on here for being the composer.
That's usually why they hide us behind the drum kit. We're usually not.
The more cymbals you have, the uglier you are. Is that what
there you go?
What do you call someone that hangs out with musicians?
A drummer, yeah.
No, bass player. Okay. No, what has 3 legs and an asshole? Drum stool.
What's the difference between horses and drummers in a parade? They have to clean up after the horses.
D-Lo, why don't you hit us with number 2?
Number 2, I went with Brand Daler from Mastodon. He's the other side of my number 1 choice, which we'll talk about later. He is, as far as like you want to talk about Neil Peart type guys, this is the dude of the modern guys who is absolutely insane. And he composes. It sounds like it's chaos when you listen to him a lot of times because there's so much going on, but then you see him live and you go, wow. And he plays with so much style and taste. Mm-hmm. He's another one of those guys for me that's progressed. If you listen to like March of the Fire Ants, which is probably one of my all-time most favorite Mastodon songs ever, where it's him just over the top, like, check out what I can do.
This is my
to the point now where he's singing over the top metal band where everything was about showing off what technique you got. Look, check this shit out. To the point now where they've just evolved into this band that writes actual songs now, and he can still be creative with his drumming.
It's a lot of times, if I see a guy setting up a microphone behind the drum kit, it's usually time to go get a beer. I mean, there are few and far between when you see a drummer that doing so much that he's got time to keep a microphone in front of his face. And
you should listen to Dixie Witch. Trinidad Leo is the best
I'm not saying that there
around.
aren't a few that can kill it while singing. The guy's like, how are they singing and putting out all that sound?
Let's be honest. When he sings, he doesn't play like he does on March of the Fire Ants because you can't physically do that much and sing at the same time. You know, there's a fine line where you got to say, okay, this song is going to become more.
Again, I also agree with me.
Here's another reaon why Brandaler is the shit. He should maybe even be number one on your list.
Sure.
Is because he played a wildling on Game of Thrones.
Oh. Him, Brent Hind, and the bass player.
You are correct. In episode 8, which is the best episode, not only the best episode of the last season of Game of Thrones, one of the top 4 episodes of Game of Thrones, the Hard Home episode from last season. He was a wildling. They
Season
also have
5,
a song.
episode 8.
They have a song called White Walkers. Mastodon recorded a song called White Walkers on the GOT mix called Catch the Throne Volume 2. That in and of itself, full disclosure here, I'm an uber geek from the Game of Thrones. Go on Westeros.org. My handle is Unsullier. I was watching him playing live the song called High Road. It was a standalone piece of music. If you just took out the drums, if you just teased out the drum line, it could be its own standalone song. It doesn't sound like a drum solo. It doesn't sound like a glorified drum fill. It's its own song. It's fantastic.
I saw Brandaler play at Gabe's. Look it up. We talked about this earlier.
Google.
Brandaler was the drummer, and it's not Brent Hind, the other guitar player.
From Mastodon?
Yeah. Brian Kelfler or something like that, maybe. I saw those dudes play in Today's the Day.
Another one of his bands, yeah.
Yeah, so we went to go to Gabe's to see Today's the Day, which is a really big band in the underground at that time. Phil Kelleher. So Phil Kelleher was the bass player, Brandaler was the drummer, and we went and saw Today's the Day, and I mean, we were like, who the fuck is this guy? What the fuck was that? 'Cause, I mean, he came right, I mean, it was even more gnarly than any Master song you ever heard. Today's the Day is brutal. Then instantly we knew that guy, like, and then when we saw him in Master, we're like, oh, it's that cat. Because, I mean, instantly everybody in the room was like, who the fuck is that guy? And what the hell is going on?
Brandaler, youngest guy on our list. And they are also not from the Bay Area, but the opposite side. Atlanta? Mastodon?
Georgia.
New York is where I had. Maybe he was born in New York.
Atlanta, Georgia.
They're from Georgia, baby.
Atlanta. He might have been born in New York, sure.
Is there a New York City, Atlanta? I mean, Georgia, rather?
Not that I'm aware of.
New York, Georgia.
New York City, Georgia?
There's an Atlanta, New York, so, you know.
Is there a New York, Iowa?
Where?
Brooklyn, Iowa.
All right. Yeah, and the Game of Thrones thing.
Well,
if you haven't listened to him yet, you may have seen him and you don't even know it yet if you're a Game of Thrones fan.
The thing about Mastodon for me and Brandaler is that those guys are way more punk rock as far as their attitude and their lifestyle. Like, play as many shows as they could, but they would drive at night because it was cheaper on gas. So they would, and like they literally wouldn't stop. They would piss in bottles. I got to get to this spot, you know. I got to get here. If we don't stop, we can make it there. And that's for me as one of those bands. It's just has constantly worked their ass off. They have constantly.
And this guy got a good start. He was born into a musical family, and I think sometimes that helps a lot. You know, I didn't start till I was 25.
All right, Thunderstroke. Hit us with your number 2.
Refresh you on number 2, and then hit you with my number 1.
That's right.
I spit on your explanation. I spit on your spit. I piss on your spit. I shit on your piss.
Oh, we're up to number 1.
We're moving along. We are at number 1.
No shit.
Yeah.
Rest of the class on page 52 there, Hatch.
All right.
Please open your hymns up the page.
Yes. Dave Grohl.
Who?
Oh, Jesus, who do I pick? Nirvana,
Nirvana, Queens of the Stone
Crowbot,
Age, and
Queens
Foo
of the Stone
Fighters.
Ages, Foo Fighters, played on Tenacious D. The list goes on and on. I mean, what hasn't this guy had a hand in? Them Crooked Vultures, another super group though that I
Weak
just
Sauce
wiped-
album, though.
Yeah,
wiped
he
out.
played with David Bowie, played with Lemmy.
He's from Warren, Ohio. Nicest guy in the world.
Grew up in D.C. or somewhere thereabouts, I think.
Virginia, DC area.
Around that Washington area,
Right.
that like K Records.
That's where that punk rock
Stuff.
kind of.
He tells a story that he got into punk rock. He went to visit his cousins who
Yep.
lived in Chicago. They went to the Cubby Bear. We've
Yep.
been there, and they saw
Right across from
Naked
Wrigley.
Ray Gun play. And he's like, ever since then, I'm fucking hooked.
Well, he lived in Evanston. That's some of our old stomping grounds. So you lived
He
in.
did, or his cousin did. His
It
cousin
said
did.
that he lived there.
I think he moved in with them after the fact.
Oh, is that right?
You used
Okay.
to live right next door
I
to
used to live in
Skokie.
Skokie, that's correct.
And I used to walk up the Skokie from the north side of Chicago and
Yeah.
work up there.
Yeah.
Foo Fighters, a really good drummer too. But when you listen to Taylor Hawkins, it sounds almost like Dave Grohl wrote that music and just
Well-
said, play it like this.
But we got to break that down, because if you look, technically, the first album is all Dave Grohl. So the first album is nobody else but Dave Grohl. Drums, guitar, bass, vocals, everything.
Oh, the Foo Fighters?
The first Foo Fighters album was something he recorded on his own. He gave that to people as the demo to say, hey, he went to the dudes from Sunny Day Real Estate, who the bass player and drummer, Nate something was the bass player and something Goldsmith's the drummer. Those guys came on and did the tour for the album. And then on the second album, Goldsmith recorded his drums to it. Dave didn't like it. Dave went back in and re-recorded all the drums.
Okay.
So if you've watched, there's a great documentary about Foo Fighters where they talk about this, and all of a sudden Nate, the bass player, and Pat Smear and guys were
Yeah.
like, all of a sudden we were getting called back to go back and redo our parts. I'm like, didn't I already record this song? And then slowly they realized these aren't the same drums. What the fuck? And nobody told Goldsmith what happened. And then even after that, I don't think they tell you what songs Taylor Hawkins and what Dave Grohl played on, because there was a mix on the next album, and then after that, I believe it's Taylor Hawkins full time.
And he's good.
Taylor Hawkins was a beast before he ever.
He played for Alanis Morissette. I saw him in Hawaii.
I saw
Alanis-
exactly. I'm glad you bring that. I saw him play for Atlanta, and I instantly was like, "Who the fuck is that
Right.
guy?"
Yeah.
he is way better than everybody else. There was something about that cat.
Dave did all the drums. Crowbot. All the
Most
guitarists.
not all of it.
He just brought in the vocalist. Did he also write the lyrics? Because the
No.
lyrics, like for DRI, it sounds like a DR song. And
So what?
Sepultura, it sounds like a Sepultura
So
song.
Dave didn't play all of it. Dave did all the drums. Kim Thial from Soundgarden played guitar on the King Diamond song and a couple
There's
others.
a Motorhead song.
There's a bass player that plays on most of it too, I believe. Lemmy
Okay.
played bass on his song. Like
didn't
Max
know that.
Cavalera played guitar on his tune. So it was a mixed bag. He wrote these songs for these bands that influenced him as a kid. Like I thought it was awesome because he did bands like Trouble. And Dave could have shopped that out to any major album, but he went back to it's on Southern Lord.
Southern
maybe?
Lord Records.
Southern Lord Records,
Yeah.
Okay.
which is his friend run that label. And I was like, that's super cool that this guy could have went to the bigs and sold it to whoever he wanted to and turned it into a Grammy nominated Santana,
Right.
that bullshit thing.
And it's
it was bands
great.
like Voivod that most cats didn't know. People who knew Dave Grohl don't know who fucking Voivod is.
Right.
They don't know who DRI is. They don't know who Wino, for God's sakes.
Right.
It's like
That was the first time I think I ever saw his name. And he was in Such Hawk, Such Hounds. Things like, I've been out of the loop. But still, just such versatile talent. All those songs on there, the best part of it is... But the best part of that album that's made me, I mean, if I didn't already have respect for Dave Grohl, is the songs don't sound like the same album. The songs sound like the band's.
you can tell that he grew up listening to that stuff, that it wasn't fake. Like when he's writing the guitar part, he's already hearing the drum part. I can
Yeah,
get
but
that.
to take it a step further, not only is a drummer, he's also a guitar player, he's also a singer, and he's also a record producer. But the only thing he doesn't do is bounce at his own shit. You know?
Dude, his drumming on Queens of the Stone Age, Songs for the Deaf, top three, some of the best drumming ever, dude. I mean, it really is.
And that's a whole
just
other-
top notch, man.
Can I tell you my take on Dave Grohl?
Sure.
All right. My first exposure to Dave Grohl, just like probably almost everyone else, is from the band Nirvana. And I remember seeing Nirvana playing on MTV. They also played, the Video Music Awards. They played the Grammys. All I remember was Dave Grohl was like a human metronome. But if you want to talk about showmanship, his hair never stopped bouncing. His arms were all over the place. And I found out where that sort of came from. I saw an interview with Dave Grohl on 60 Minutes, you know, the show that only old people watch.
Yes.
Well, I'm an old person. And he says he learned how to play using pillows and oversized sticks. So in order to get sound out of those, he had to beat the living fuck out of those things. He only knows how to do the bombastic, oversized, fucking Jim Carrey of drumming. You know what I'm saying? And he's perfect at timekeeping. Dave Grohl is the shit. He's awesome.
He's definitely not the hamburger partner of drumming.
There's a primal aspect to playing drums,
Right.
man. I'm gonna smash something. I'm gonna fucking hit this as hard as I can. I'm not here to fucking. Well, even like a snare drum. Nothing's cooler than fucking whap, fucking whap on the back. When I was playing in Electric Coma, I was getting pissed off on the guitar because it wasn't playing the shit right, and everybody could tell because I was smacking my snare drum so hard that it just like it was overshadowing everything else in the room. And like, I'm not happy right now.
Animal. No, and he replaced Dale Crover in Nirvana. That's some big shoes to fill. Dale Crover's another guy that deserves an honorable mention. The Melvins are fucking badass.
Sure.
2 number 1 picks left. It's you and me, Donnie.
Drum roll.
Ready to go? I picked John Paul Gaster from Clutch. And the reason I chose him is because I think that he is different than everybody else on this list. This guy approaches it, he's more Mitch Mitchell than he is anyone like a metal style drummer. He definitely is a throwback to the old school style, like we were talking. Like he's way more jazzy. He's more Mitch Mitchell from like Hendrix.
I saw a video before their shows. He practices with click track.
Yeah, here's a guy who is the dude who sits there and goes, all right, I'm going to play a paradiddle 700 times in a row, and I'm going to change where I'm putting the double at every 4 times.
And he puts his videos on YouTube of him doing so.
What you try to do is you try to play the same patterns over and over and over again, so you don't have to think anymore, because that's part of like technique versus pace. He's that perfect mixture of that, because he's a guy who spends so much time on his technique, he can do it without thinking anymore. And that's the hard part, is not, you shouldn't think about drum fills. You should let those be organic and real and honest, and let those come out in what you do. And it should be a little different every time. He takes an empty canvas every night and has these main colors that he's going to use every night, but paints it just a little bit different every time. And that's for me where you're creating art. Like, you got somebody now who is in the moment of time expressing themselves.
Gotcha.
Thunderstroke,
you want to comment on this?
I know that he has done drum solos at shows. I've seen him on this new thing called the internet, and they have...
Wait, slow down.
For all you kids out there, I would hear his CDs. The first CD I ever got was Jam Room. By the way, I just have to throw in the story that one of Don Brown's nicknames is Betrayer. Thank you, Timmy Pot Pie.
Oh, it's classy.
You're gonna get that tattooed on your
My
knuckles.
knuckles, baby. Ow, represent.
Stole his woman. But he had, you would listen to a CD and you would be like, I got to see how he fucking does this, like live. Like, there's no way he did this. There's no way one guy made that, and then you would go, I don't need to see a drum solo. I have specific songs on a checklist where I was like, I gotta fucking watch that drummer. How does JP do that? And then you see it and you're watching him like, he's doing it.
He's doing it different.
I don't believe my eyes.
That's
But he's doing it. How the fuck? Like, I couldn't do it. It's not like, okay, now I know how to do it. Like, I have no idea how he's
My
doing it.
favorite though is he would do it a little different. So like you would hear it on the record, and you go see him live and go, that's not how you play it on the fucking record. You're doing something completely different there. What the fuck is that?
But there are some things where you're watching him like, is he really doing that? How the fuck is he doing that? He was the first drummer that ever made me think, you don't need a drum solo when every song you're watching the guy going, fucking wow. You go see Clutch live, you're seeing the show in Chicago, but people come from all over the U.S. to see him. They drive miles to see him. They have such a strong following. People don't say, have you seen them or where you saw them? It's how many times. Everybody's got a number of how many times they've seen Clutch or what album they got into him. And he's definitely one of my favorite drummers.
What you were talking about seeing him live, I've seen him live so many times. Like with that Mastodon tour, because there's Mastodon and Clutch. I got to see him twice on this tour. It was just a completely different show each time.
Yeah. We drove up to Minneapolis. We took 2 cars up there, and we saw them with Dumpster Juice.
When I saw you, it was love at first sight, baby.
Speaking of Timmy Pot Pie, he bought his ticket because he's like, you guys aren't going to get in. It's going to sell out. And we went to a bar beforehand, and you guys knew the guys from Dumpster Juice.
And those guys from like
Craig was in tight, and the guys from Dumpster Juice came in like, who needs tickets?
handed them to us.
Yeah, and just gave them to us. We got in for free.
All right, can I give you my commentary on JP Gaster?
He's also from Maryland, so we are
Yes.
swinging to the East Coast, not the Bay Area.
I was watching a channel on YouTube last night, and guys, help me out with the pronunciation of this. Meinl Cymbals? Meinl.
You talking about the website where they show the clips of him playing?
Yes.
It's amazing.
So you know of which I speak. All right.
I'm a JP fan.
On the Meinl Cymbal channel, they actually have their own channel on YouTube, right? So you can go on there and just type it in MEINL, and then I'm sure it'll pop up. He plays the song Burning Beard live. They isolate just the drum track, and the camera is just on him. You can hear the bass. They keep the bass pumped up a little bit, not at full volume, but maybe 5/8, 3/4. Because we talked about this already. Drums and bass go together like vanilla and ice cream. But you can't hear the vocals, can't hear the guitar, can't hear the crowd the audience noise. All you hear is bass and a whole shitload of drums. First thing that I noticed is that he shit cans the traditional hand over hand technique. He went for the double, and then he did the drag down onto the snare drum. That was cool to watch. I'm saying this as a non-drummer. I'm saying this as a fan. He was very, very effortless, very fluid, almost. Some of these guys float like an angel hitting those things. Other people are like Mike Tyson beating the living fuck out of the skins. Dave Grohl is Mike Tyson.
Right, and Hatch loves a good beat off.
I do love a good beat off, and I like getting beat by Mike Tyson, so it's all good, you know what I'm saying? Anyway.
He is honestly one of the greatest right now. And he only plays a 4-piece drum kit. That's the other thing that I dig, is that this cat can do what he does with the minimal amount of shit. And he's another guy that you can look at his progression. If you look at the stuff he did on Pitchfork versus where they're at now, you know, this dude has constantly pushed himself to get better and better and better. And
all right, is it my turn with the number one?
This is it.
All right. This is actually a pretty easy pick. This is actually kind of a no-brainer, and in that respect, I'm actually a populist in my number one pick. The best heavy metal drummer of all time is Dave Lombardo from Slayer. He's had his appearances in several other bands. You know, say what you want about him being in Testament. None of that shit matters.
Great album.
Dave Lombardo is Slayer's drummer.
So what else does Dave Lombardo play then?
Grip Incorporated.
And he was in Testament. Phantomus. Is that right?
Yeah, Phantomus would have been with King Buzzo from the Melvins. Mike Patton was the singer, and the bass player is from Mr. Bungle. If you're looking for Slayer, you're not going to enjoy it. But if you want something that's just off the beaten path and chaotic, you know.
Well, look, if you want to talk about the qualities of what makes a good drummer, or a good metal drummer, or a good death metal drummer, or fucking Hungarian Satan metal drummer, whatever, we can slice and dice that a million ways. You want to talk about timekeeping? Dave Lombardo, check. You want to talk about the ability to play fast? Hello, Dave Lombardo, check. The ability to throw in double bass and just fucking kick you in the balls with it is the godfather of double bass, check. The ability to make a song unto itself, independent of bass, guitar, lyrics, studio tricks. Dave Lombardo, check 3 times.
Right.
How about the title track to Seasons in the Abyss? Strip all that shit down. I'll listen to that shit. I want that shit piped into my coffin when I'm dead. Okay? Alright? The drum track, that big ass fucking fill he puts in Angel of Death, that's not even the best part of that song. The rhythm of that song is the best part of that song. How about Spill the Blood? Need I Say More? Spill the Blood unto itself. Play that song, just the drum track. I'm listening, and I'm sitting over here with a fucking hard-on, okay? A heavy metal hard-on with a fucking Kaiser helmet on the end, okay? Dave Lombardo has everything that you need in spades for a heavy metal drummer. I've seen Slayer live. I don't know how many times, I honestly don't. I could go downstairs in my basement and count through my ticket stubs. 25 times, maybe 30, somewhere around there. If you want to talk about somebody who can play effortlessly, Dave Lombardo is at the absolute top of the list. If you want to make a Mount Rushmore of drummers, not heavy metal drummers, not Satan metal drummers, speed metal drummers, Mount Rushmore of drummers, Dave Lombardo has to be maybe the second face you etch onto that, after maybe Buddy Rich.
There's two things.
Open up the forum here.
There's two things about Dave Lombardo that make him great. It's his right hand. His right hand doubles, like it plays double time. So his right hand is double time in everything, which is tough.
Right.
So when you're playing as fast as he does, that's tough. Not to just go to the singles. I mean, he doubles it up. The other thing that made him great for me was he knew when to break it down into the.
Like on Salt of Heaven, it's just, just
It sounds so heavy, we're like, it's not about playing fast, it's just the fact he knew when to break it into punk.
Right, and you know he could.
And that's where the punk rock in him comes out that people forget about. Lombardo, for me, owes just as much to punk rock as he does to anything else. And it's because of that right hand, like I said, punk rock mentality where it's fast.
Beating it.
Just, I'm going to drill it. That's Lombardo. And he, honestly, I was going to put him on my list. And because he is, if you want to talk about metal in quotation marks, metal drumming,
right?
That to me is metal as you get.
3 out of 4 metalheads agree.
There's not much more than Dave Lombardo when it comes to that. I mean, and the other thing I'll say that you made a great point, the effortless side of it. When he would go across the toms, it was fucking sickening, man.
Right.
It was
from Havana, Cuba. Another guy on our list. It's not from the U.S., but he's a Christian.
He is practicing Christian. Yeah.
Just like was it Nico on our list too? So I mean, they have a lot of songs that are pretty heavily laced with not exactly stuff that they would sing in church.
Right.
It's supposed to scare you a little bit.
I've heard a lot of guys say this, but I think the first person who I think I heard say this was actually Dave Mustaine, is that heavy metal makes you either want to fight or fuck. It's supposed to elicit some sort of an emotion from you. It's good shit.
Excellent pick.
All right, ODB, thanks for being on the show, man.
Thank you guys for having me.
I'm Brown from Iowa City.
This was a fun episode. Thanks a lot, boys. All right, community property.
Episode 7. Thanks for listening.
Community property.
China cymbal?
No.
Cowbell?
No.
Did you say no to the cowbell?
Right.
You said
Security.
Now is it badass to have? Yeah, I get it. You say about China, I literally had my China symbol taken away from me. No, seriously, I had my China symbol and my cowbell taken away from me.
You've used my drum kit and I have a cowbell. And
I love
son
it.
of a bitch.
And people get mad at me if I have a cowbell in front of me. I'm like, I wonder if I can use this now. This is perfect. And they're like, dude, quit doing that.
Right there.
So they take that away. And I'm like, the China symbol would sound really good right now. How do you like that?
Right.
If a little is good, a lot must be.
A lot must be that much better.